All right, so here we are. It's early winter, the water's getting cold. It's cold out here today. A lot of these fish are really in transition. There's some really deep already. There's still a lot of fish really shallow. We're gonna run up the river. We're gonna do some cranking and see if we can't find us a big school on one of these channel swing banks. Gonna be a lot of chunk rock. Water's in the low 50s, 50, 51. We're gonna see if we can't go up here and find a big wad of them somewhere, and should be a pretty good day. Just takes me way back being up here. I can remember I was just a senior in high school, bought my first boat, and I can just remember, you know, every chance I had, I was out here on the water on this lake, and I'd come up this river and crank these rocks like this and drag football jigs out here deep and just catch so many bass. And that's when I was cutting my teeth, learning how to fish on my own, make my own decisions. You know, I fished my entire life. There she is. Little guy, little spot. Little bitty one. Wouldn't take long, king cast in. Usually you can find them on these channel banks. There can be a whole bunch of them. You know, the best time of year to do this, in my opinion, is November, December, and March, and depending on where you're located, first part of April, until that water gets over 56 and before it gets below 48. So really that 48 to 56, that's when I like cranking some channel swing banks. That's when they tend to be pretty good. And as the water gets colder, I'm gonna go to a crawfish colored crankbait. But right now, these fish are really feeding on bait. And so I'm throwing a shad colored crankbait. That's what I'm throwing. I've opted to go with shad, and I'll let the fish tell me what they want. If I get a couple bites and they miss it, or I stick them and they pull off, then I'll change colors. But even if you're throwing the wrong color crankbait, unless it's just a wild, different type of color, it's shad or crawfish. I mean, it's pretty simple. Something reddish orange or brown, or a shad color. And I'm just trying to stay as tight to the rocks as I can. I mean, those fish are gonna be right up against those rocks. They'll be, you know, suspended. Every single place that I see a rock sticks out further than the rest, that's where I wanna make sure I get my crankbait right beside it and try and touch the side of the wall of them rocks. That fish was barely hooked, but a lot of times I'm gonna give it 2 or 3. That fish might have had the front hook like that and it come off, and she just ended up with the back hook. But that's number 2 down through here pretty quickly. Another pretty spot. Barely hooked on that one. That's a much better fish. Good largemouth, boy, she choked it too. Choked that crankbait. Go. That's a solid 10.5 pounder there. That's the way you want them eating it right there. Me, when I'm looking at a channel bank, I break it down in 3 places. Where does it end, and where's the transitions on it, and then rock formations. Everywhere you see it sticks out, it's some sort of a rock formation. Like there's one right there, there's one up there, there's another one way on up there further. We started way down yonder, and we've been coming all the way down this bank. We've had, I think, 7 bites. And every one of them have been on where it turns, make the turn out like kind of like a little point. Or the first couple bites I had was up there where it transitioned from this real bluff river rock to more chunk rock. And I just said we were getting down here to where it ends on a big long point, runs way, way out off the bank. And I just said, we'll get a bite before we get to the end of this point where it goes in the water. And I just caught that 2.5 pound largemouth right there. That is what I call bluff in, where I just caught that largemouth right there. That's textbook for this time of year. Absolute textbook where that fish was, where it goes under the water right there. That fish probably wasn't but about 2 foot deep, if that. I knew it'd be a bite. Right there on that transition's where that fish was. You can see how it's kind of lighter rock here and then it goes to getting chunkier right there. That means the channel's swinging right up against the bank. I just said that right there should be a bite, and there he was. That fish just slapped at it. He's hooked on the outside all the way around. Another spot. 2 largemouth and 4 or 5 spots so far. When these rocks go to getting real broken up like this, you gotta be sitting on go, because this is where you just about automatics. When they get real broken up like this. I missed that one right there, that little formation of rock, but I got that one out there. And I'll make 2 or 3 casts on them, different casts. One real tight and one off of it just a little bit. And I just I changed my rod angle a lot. I'll try and really hold my rod out, pointed towards the bank a lot, so I'm keeping it as close as I can in that strike zone without pulling it off that slope too fast. Wind really helps this. If you really want to try and fish these stretches, it's got a little bit of chop, just breeze, ripple, whatever. But if I was going down through here, you know, knowing that this kind of stuff that they're on, and it's dead slick glass, I would try a crankbait a little bit. But if I didn't get bit pretty quick, that's when I'm gonna back off of the jig, like a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce little football jig or a shaky head, and I'm gonna back off and fish these a little slower. So here's a setup that I like for throwing a crankbait on channel swing top banks. Just a shad color crankbait runs in that anywhere depending on line size, but it's gonna run in that 4 to 7 foot range. I'm throwing it on 12 pound fluorocarbon. Got this on a 7 foot medium glass composite rod. So the rod is made of glass and graphite. It's a medium action rod, moderate fast tip, 7 foot in length, and I like a slow speed reel for this. This is a 6:4 gear ratio reel. That's what I like anytime I'm throwing a crankbait. I usually stick with 12 pound fluorocarbon year round on a crankbait when I'm fishing that rock and them transition top banks. There's a spot, I can tell where he's shaking his head. Just a bunch of little Kentuckys. No way you can't. It's too perfect. There she is. Woo! That was a fun about an hour and a half right there with the shallow running crankbait on these channel swing banks, man. I don't know how many we caught, 10 or 12 quickly. Caught a couple of nice ones, a lot of spots like that right there. This time of year, you can get out here on channel swing and creek channel banks where that good chunk rock is, and look for them rock formations. Parallel it with a shad color or crawfish color crankbait that'll run that, 5 to 8 foot depth. And you can catch a lot of bass like that right now. Pretty.